People have asked me to record a video or give some basic advice. This is so disorganized, and this is just going to come off the cuff because I haven't prepared anything. I'm not good at video editing or anything like that. But in 21 years in living in the city, and 7 years of that spent campaigning, I've just been so depressed and disappointed, but kind of inspired with that there is a wind of change happening in the city, because more people are waking up to how this city is run. And it is run by the few, and it is not run for the many. It is an absolute hypocrisy. The empowerment of communities is the last thing it seems our too long leaders want. Their behaviour, their property interests, how they treat people is really, really deplorable. So in terms of talking about power, how do people get power? Well, first of all, they don't need to be coerced and manipulated. I've spent a lot of those 7 years being lied to, coerced and manipulated, having employment sabotaged, being attacked, being told and manipulated by certain councillors. If you speak out about this, people won't work with you. You'll have no influence. Then I was banned from being able to speak to certain developers, even though I've got really good working relationships with them, because they respected the imagination that Manchester Shield could kind of bring. And really, like, Shield began out of starting in a position where I actually really 7 years ago believed in this council, always voted Labour, really thought that they were genuine people in this city. And what has happened, you learn not only the endemic failures, but a cultural failure of the inability to talk to people. So what is really hard about going out and asking people in their city what they want? When we look at the structural planning of this city, it is a massive failure. An American academic told me that they will be writing for years about the recent failures of how this city has been planned. Yet the same people, the same names sit in the positions of power, failing on green policy, making banal places, excluding people from having a say in their communities, of infrastructure going back to be built into the community, of making our streets, the streets that the people understand, the streets and the places and the neighbourhoods people wanted to be empowered in. They're being more excluded while it's being sold off to investors from MIPIM who will buy up the city. And what really, really frustrates me is when we look at the definition of what a radical is. What is a radical? I'm not a radical in terms of the only radical thing that I have done with Manchester Shield is speak up, have questioned, have provoked, and have said this is not satisfactory anymore. Why can't people do that? When I look at so many Mancunians and the city that I've really loved all these years, such an honest, earnest people, but you're being lied to with the whole gloss of, I love Manchester. You should love it, but you should demand better from it. You should demand better from it because you're being ostracised from it. The rest of it is very artificial. It's a PR spin. It's a sense of we can blame everybody but ourselves for the decisions that have marred this city recently. The tens of millions lost in the Section 106 money, the 0% affordable housing, the appalling progress or non-progress on green architecture, green issues, the absolute hostility towards incredibly damaging planning decisions that have united many people in just saying this cannot be the way this city is run. And then the outcry and the anger, all that effort, it wasn't necessary. It really wasn't necessary. The heritage failures where buildings have been land banked for ages, yet within their communities the same powers that would be able to protect heritage buildings are used against people in social housing that were demolished in places like Ancoats. And they say it will happen again with the Northern Corridor, when you've got the violence enacted against the squatters, the legal cases taken against the people who are homeless, the absolute resistance to changing any of those models, or that sense of being able to empower people and give them a solution. It is all blamed on central government. Now, there is no doubt our central government is toxic, but do not kid yourselves under the false idealism and the gloss of those ignorant and despicable leaders who are absolutely lazy, unimaginative. They work against the people. They don't want the people to have a say in the city, and they can use that false Labour mask of their too long leadership, of decades and decades of not doing things. Why recently has a heritage motion been put through by a new young councillor who was then forced to apologise to a planning officer, a far too powerful planning officer, because she dared to question him? Inside that party, it is set up like a hierarchy. It is set up like a very banal pyramid. I don't want to give them the compliments of what people would say a conspiracy theory, but they really do have it stitched up in their very Thatcherite approach for their little Gotham City for dummies. How they are running it is an absolute abject shame. Anyone, even within that party, and I know many Labour members are so angry about the direction of the city. So when are you going to stand up against these people? How can we have a leader working with human rights abusers? How can we have a leader that lies about a document being uploaded by people like me with no technological skills onto their server because they don't want to admit how appalling their strategic regeneration programme for the gay village was? How can communities be let down across Manchester, North Manchester, North, South, East and West of Manchester, everywhere, every single borough of this city is being let down while money is being poured into a £130 million vanity project that only Least got a say in? That's our taxpayers' money. That's 41 million of our direct Manchester City Council's taxpayers' money, while the grassroots, the independent organisations suffer, while they close down, while these luxury flats and people, our property politicians, retire into places like Deloitte. They get very powerful positions, multiple powerful positions like Bernstein, where if Lease ever goes, will retire into. That's not acceptable. Already, when I speak to national journalists, people are saying, yes, we know there's something really wrong with this city. It's really, really bad. There's all these allegations, and this has been a massive burdensome part of what I've done recently. I'm so angry about some of the things I'm learned and the allegations that are brought to me that journalists know, but no one's allowed to talk about it because of the legal sort of menace. Now, I know a lot of campaigners. I know several campaigners have been hacked. I know lots of people who have been abused. I even know opposition members who have had their bricks thrown through their window. I am absolutely tired of how people are treated in this city. I'm worn out, and obviously I'm just been an individual, but I say to everyone out there, begin to stand up and do not trust these people. If it took for someone as small as me, in terms of having some impact, yes, it's been extremely disappointing. Yes, I've been ostracised from the dialogues that I've wanted. Even things like the Mayfield Imaginarium led to developers being unable to use the word Imaginarium, or unable to talk to me, or told if they talked to me there'd be consequences. This is how this city is run. It is run by thugs and bullies. We've got a leader whose act of violence against his own stepdaughter just was swept under the carpet almost 8 years ago. And now, when they're unveiling Emmeline Pankhurst's statue today, they'll take all the credit, yet they're working with people that oppress minorities, oppress and torture, and use the death sentence against people, where people go missing in Abu Dhabi and in Dubai. And yet our leader says there was no call for affordable or social housing in 2014 when this relationship was developed, in these incredible statements that if this was Westminster, if this was London, if this was a different city, no one would be able to get away with the stupidity and ignorance of such cynical statements. And yet here we are 2 decades into a leadership, 22 years, and the influence has been felt by other incompetent leaders who are now trying to take the results and successes of people like the Greater Manchester Housing Action, of Tenants Union, who in 40 years haven't even developed these policies, haven't done these things, haven't done the design manifestos that have just appeared this year under the gloss of PR. Now, I imagine all those people that genuinely want good things to happen will face so many uphill battles because of the cynical people that run this city. All they need to do is create a policy and never adhere to it. They need to, the attempt is to co-opt every community group, every campaign, to take their successes, to take the work of the people for the things that they have not done over decades and decades. And it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing that we're at this point of local politics and they're never held accountable. Now, until recently, 96 seats were held by one party. Now, I know there's great Labour values and members, but why are you all fading into cowardice at this leadership, at the cronyism, at the nepotism, of all the ill decisions that have come before it? Why aren't you standing up? Why aren't you doing something? And for me, I don't give a damn about any political party. I'm a member of no political party. I believe in individual strength and power, and I will not be coerced and told what to say to people. But it's come to a point in this city where, like other campaigners who have left the city, or I know campaigners that have been driven near to suicide, who have been appallingly treated by these people that say they are allies, friends. And I look around and I just think I cannot keep on doing this anymore. So I'm going to be leaving Manchester with a very bittersweet sense of, where is the city heading? When are the people going to claim this city back? When are the people going to have their legitimate say in things, not the fake consultations, the erasing of history, the damage caused against any initiative that doesn't fill with the leader's agenda of greed, ease and sleaze. And that's what it is. And there can be no question about that anymore. And it also gets to the point where, if this leadership has been there so long, when is there going to be a change? I see new councillors are using the words new wave councillors, and some of them have made an effort, and already they're trying to be hobbled by the same people who are in power. Well, when collectively are people going to demand a change? Now, I just think a simple page, satire, cartoons, making your own community groups, but never believing that you have to be coerced, controlled, or told what to think or do. Make your own consultations for the buildings. Now, ironically, I've had responses to single consultations that I've run for free out of my own money or with other people, and I've had thousands of responses. Things like Mayfield, I mean, should have been celebrated. Not a single councillor came. For things like London Road Fire Station, there was so little support. 99% of emails were never responded to, and the hostility behind something that they supposedly supported in that council, told that it can never be anything other than a hotel. The failures in the CPO by never expressing or talking to people with public interest. So we will go out and talk to people. That seemed to menace the people who control our city. It's changed the destiny of a building. I've helped to save or be involved in campaigns that have got rid of horrible skyscrapers like the St Michael's ones that were chosen by our leaders, the carbuncles and the terrible planning. But no, it's not enough. You can't individually fight every single situation, every single building. Collectively, there needs to be a recognition of change. Now, I'm not an urbanist that writes essays and essays about things or have studied intense intellectual theories. I don't hide behind the idealism. My perception is that anyone, you, can stand up and demand what you want. The truth is your passion. The truth is your imagination. The truth is your creativity. The truth is your ability to see how this city should develop. Not with the grey grot, banal investor pockets, the vulnerability and damage of that model for antisocial crime, litter, behaviour, the air quality, the congestion, the things that should have seen any of these terrible planners sacked long ago. And they should be sacked, and they should go, and there needs to be a recruitment of new talent. But until then, the only thing people can do in this city that is becoming a no-say city, it's a no-say city for the people. You are going to have to show that you've got great ideas. Go to the developers that have a bit of land. Say, we're excited to work with you. How is it that even some of the most cutthroat developers have been so much nicer to me and met with me, and though I've been extremely critical to their face and been able to have that debate, have shown me more respect than this council of fraudulent people. When we see how councillors treat people, from the abuse of Chris Paul or people like Kevin Peel that never faced any real disciplinary action, just the effacement of all the values that they say they stand for is shocking. From the gay village not being given an LGBT cultural heritage hub, from that money that came from central government for the factory that could have saved so many heritage buildings and given satellites and opportunities to so many different communities in education. Not this conglomerate art and this sense of vanity for a defunct leader who needs to go. But on and on and on this goes, and we see in the council that has taken the opportunity to ask democratic questions down from 10 times a year to 5 times a year. And the behaviour of conformity, obedience, thuggery, and absolute hostility towards anyone that raises any question in this city is a dire indictment of what this city has become and how too few hold its power. So all I want to say is to everybody, I'm leaving this city because I'm fed up, and after a year of living in a centre of basically from living in the building with the terrorists who left for the bombing, from people breaking into the building, a sex offender being found there, drugs and people with weapons found in our hallways, from walking outside to people dying on the street who are homeless, to hearing from so many different campaigners the resistance and the ineptitude and all the secrets and lies that are hiding behind this city waiting to come out. The media, especially things like Manchester Evening News, will not cover those issues. They don't want you to know about these issues. You've got to begin to question where the scrutiny begins. It's all right to have questions. It's all right to have strong opinions. Our political elite insult each other on a daily basis. They bully, bludgeon, and when you dare to say anything back to them, they try and treat you like a criminal. Now, I think when this city hopefully progresses past this impasse, and it's only going to happen with new names. Now, Shield formed in the sense of, well, all it was a simple message. The people want to be involved in the direction and say of their city. The incredible hostility, duplicity, Machiavellianism, lies, hatred, and bullying that comes from asking about those simple things, from the sabotage which are proven in my subject access requests and complaints that I've made, and the lack of transparency that all organisations, transparency organisations, people doing FOIs, be they national journalists or national organisations, that are resisted by our council because they talk about commercial interests and how they cannot reveal this information. Why? Because that's a few powerful people that have taken their role to power and privilege, their arrogance, their hatred of people having a voice, the fact that there's been no neighbourhood plans that have effectively been endorsed in this city, because they don't want you to have that power. They can talk artificially about all their values, but we can see in their actions, in their interests, and in the simple things that can even be proved what they are up to. And it is a very tacky little Gotham City for dummies that they think they own, and they don't own you. So it's time to stand up against them. And whether that be about beautiful ideas, incredible visions, about demanding better for your neighbourhood, about fundraising, but never being coerced and controlled by them, never being indoctrinated, coerced, infiltrated for their own agenda. They will try. That seems to be the way that Manchester Labour has worked with this leadership. And again, I'm not saying all, because I think there's great brand new voices out there, but they need to stand up and they need to do it now. But the whole policy has been infiltration. It has been to try and allay people's power. And I think, again, it proves, even on a very systemic level, that 22 years of a leadership under any democracy, under any sense of power, is far too long. You know the doctrine about absolute power, and absolute power for too long. Well, that is seen very clearly. We have people, especially in the city centre where I've lived for so long, we've had people that don't respond, like Pat Carney, to anybody. They abuse people, they block people on Twitter, they lie about people. Our polls say 95% of people don't want him, that he doesn't do a good job for the ward. For the wards he says he has a say in. He was told to the Piccadilly Labour Party that he was leaving, but no, he remains. He remains indolently. He will go to award ceremonies for the gloss of the silly PR and the absurdity of all his failures. It gets to the point for me, and again, this is why I'm leaving the city, because people, there are glimpses of hope. We don't do things differently until then. We don't have all the cliches. We don't even have the right to talk about the cliches. We don't have the right until everyone stands up and gets rid of these people and demands genuine change that has to happen today. And until that happens, all the cliches about Manchester, that we do things differently, we're not. We're allowing a few people to steer the direction of our destiny, and it's damaging. You can see it on the streets. You can see it in the littered streets, the homeless, the way that squatters and the vulnerable are treated. You can see it in the lack of affordable housing. You can see it in the denigration with appalling architecture and the privatisation of the city, in selling to investors that this is not a direction for a city. These are not Mancunian values. This isn't the city I fell in love with. So at what point, after how much can they misbehave? How much power can a few people have? How can they use that power and take it to their own point of privilege? That has to be scrutinised. There has to be an empowerment for the people, and people need to be inspired and believe in themselves. And basically, after this long ramble that has been taken in one take, I just want to say, believe in yourself. Don't deceive yourself. Don't be deceived by their agenda. Whatever you do, set up something for yourself. Set up and do your own consultations. Send it to the developers. Try and change policy. Don't be infiltrated. Don't believe in them. Don't take what. Go with a skepticism and a cynicism, and go forward. This is your city. This matters so much. This city is in the wrong direction. The psychology of power here is toxic and appalling, and so be your own voice. I passionately believe in the people, but more people have got to stand up, and people are, and that slow erosion is beginning to happen. But is it enough? When will it be enough? When will people reclaim their city? So all I want to say is really that it's a very bittersweet thing to leave this city, but I know I've like anyone who gets involved in this area needs a lot of self-care. You cannot imagine the burnout, the just how jaded it can even, well, it definitely has made me jaded, and sometimes I think I don't see the greater sides of the city. I've got great friends, great people. I see so many promising people, from the 3-year-olds to the 90-year-olds we've asked in consultations with their great ideas, who've never been asked anything about how they want their city before. Not in a genuine, accessible and empowering way. Yes, under the gloss and artifice of appalling consultations where few people can even find the document online, and the whole thing's obscured, and all the decisions that are going to be made against it have no awareness of the people, and where plans are pushed through the next week. And this is a city that needs to thrive, be ambitious, and I am sick of the word world class being used, from cardboard tack, from appalling buildings which will have no public access, that have no dream, no vision, no passion. What are we allowing to happen to this city? Soon you'll lose it. And obviously there's been many articles even appearing in national press about the soul erosion of the city. Well, our bureaucrats are soulless. Our leaders have become so addicted to their power, their hubris. They are incapable of seeing the potential of this city. And until they go, nothing will change. So basically the message is, believe, empower, be bold, rebel, Be a true radical. Don't believe in the false appearances that are just pushed upon you. It is time to wake up, Manchester, and it's heartbreaking to see many of the changes in this city, because if you don't, it's going to slip away from you forever. And this is not the second city. Values and emboldenment that we need to present and can present, all that potential, all that energy that could be harnessed, is not happening. And it's your responsibility now, else nothing is going to happen at all. So Shield, if you wanted to get involved with Shield, just message a page. I won't be responding because I'm going to turn all my social media off because I've had enough. But if you don't think Shield's message is right, or you've got a real passionate area, go and set up your page. Go and set up something for yourself. Go and just make it happen. Get a Twitter handle, get the social media, use the best side of social media. Daring to present something different. They will work against you. But there are other avenues in. And the more people say this is no longer acceptable, the more people that push forward with what they want to see in the city, the more people that demand something from our dysfunctional non-democracy here, the better. This is your city. Take it back, reclaim yourself, and be yourself. Peace out.